Okay, now it's hearing me. Alrighty. Could I have somebody in Discord say something really quick before we start? It is not reading Discord. One moment. Now we are good. Okay, well, alrighty. So, welcome to episode 9, I believe, of TIL, or the Interchain Lab, or if you're our wonderful guest, today I learned. And my name is Tog. I am a part of the OSL. We have Water Spinner co-hosting, and we have... Do you want me to use this username?
Yeah, Valeo's good.
Vallejo from Quasar here today. Normally you see our lovely friend Robo, who is in the audience. However, he has decided to take some leave away from the Osmosis support lab, and we support him in his decision. He has done some wonderful work for us, and we are going to miss him every single day. However, we always look forward to seeing him around. He's going to be in the Discord. He's going to be in community spaces. You're not going to miss him. He is going to be a very well-known name still. He's just decided to step down from the duties he was performing in the OSL. But don't worry, he'll still be around to bother. Now, welcome, Vallejo from Quasar Finance. It is wonderful to have you, and let's talk a little bit about your background and your sort of crypto interests and journeys and what got you to this point.
Totally, man. And yeah, again, thanks to everyone listening. It's super cool to be here, especially kind of in a day where we have so many negative news. I mean, Robo leaving, right? The Silicon Valley Bank things and all that other stuff. I hope I can shine a bit of positive light into this day with kind of our announcement today. But yeah, let me get started with myself. So my name is Valentin. I'm 23. I've been in crypto since I'm about 16 years old. The space initially got me interested because I grew up raised in Germany, but to Eastern European parents. I grew up in communism, so kind of the money topic was something that very early in my life I got interested in, kind of seeing how they had to adapt it to the new system, right, that I didn't grow up with. And so when I found about Bitcoin and kind of understood that it's not controlled by anyone essentially, right, it's a distributed system, immediately just went deep down into the rabbit hole. At that point, I was playing professional Counter-Strike in Germany. Got a hand injury though, which kind of forced me to just find something else to do. And yeah, as fate would have it, literally 2 weeks after that, heard about Bitcoin for the first time. And yeah, from that point on, kind of, my journey went into crypto. I've been doing some, research reports and tokenomics back in the day before, tokenomics was a thing that a PhD would have to do, right? We're talking very early tokenomics, kind of, where that could be a one-person job. Worked in a couple of research companies in Germany, wrote about Bitcoin. And then 2017 came around with the bull market. And suddenly everyone cared. And so I was part in a couple of research groups in Germany with a couple of universities, kind of trying to explain to, German, behemoths like, the car companies we all know and banks, trying to explain to them what this stuff is. I was kind of university at that point, even though I was like first semester bachelor. I then pretty quickly after that realized I don't want to study philosophy, so I dropped out, loaned some money from family and friends, and applied to Draper University, which is Tim Draper's private school. People may know Tim Draper as one of the kind of biggest VCs in Silicon Valley, one of the early stage VCs in Elon Musk stuff as well. Got accepted, and that kind of started my entrepreneurial journey, where right out of the gate there, I was picked up by kind of one of the first NFT companies in the space called Real Items. They use NFTs for supply chain management, so not as cool as PFPs, but a bit more Web 2.5, I would say, before that name was even coined. And from that point onward, co-founded another company called Atlantic Ventures, which is still kicking it today, research and advisory in Germany for emerging tech. And then after countless years of talking about the space, I finally decided enough talking. I want to start building. I want to start going into the space. And so Quasar was born literally 1.5 years ago, which feels completely insane to say.
Wow, that is a wild, wild journey. So that's just crazy. And what really interests me is your kind of importance on crypto in spaces that might not have the best monetary policies. It's great that you've also had kind of like that VC background where you understand how things on the back end of big crypto journeys go. What do you have on the importance of crypto in spaces that may not have those good monetary policies, and
Yeah.
how like what do you think are the conditions necessary for adopting crypto into traditional monetary systems?
Yeah, man. So first of all, I consider myself really like I'm very grateful for having had this exposure to basically both extremes, right? Like I've been to Ukraine literally last year and the year before that, before everything started. My grandma actually lives there, and so I've had exposure, and like Bulgaria is where my mom is from, right? So like I've seen societies where kind of the understanding for money is just not a thing that's been given early, right? And not a huge importance given to it. And then on the other hand, right, kind of going to Silicon Valley as like a kid that was like financing himself month to month, paycheck to paycheck, which I mean I didn't have a paycheck, but that was kind of the situation. And like my pay for my work at NFT company in Silicon Valley was living at the founder's house. Like, but I was
Hmm.
sleeping on a mat I was
Oh
sleeping on a mat
my.
under the staircase, like Harry Potter. But I was over the moon. I really didn't care. I couldn't care less because I was so close to the other extreme, right? To Silicon
Right.
Valley, which is pretty much as far away from like, ex-Soviet policies you can be. Venture capital, big money, risky investments, long-term thinking, growth. And so, yeah, I consider myself really fortunate to kind of see the entire spectrum. To answer your question, I think the natural reason why countries with bad monetary policies adopt crypto quicker is because people are being forced to understand how their money works. And I think we have a bit of a, at least until COVID, we had a bit of a kind of a slow adoption rate in the West because of too much comfort, to say like that. Like many people did not have to put in time to learn how our money system works because it was stable, right? It did its job, stable, 2% inflation, no one really cared. It wasn't a topic in everyone's mind. Stocks made 8% per year. And then with COVID, you can see that inflation is a massive driver to crypto education. We've seen it in the past in Venezuela, we've seen it in Argentina, we've seen it in Turkey, we've seen it in many other countries. And now, in a way, we're seeing it in the West as well, right? Inflation is a big topic, and people are thinking, well, hold on, are you telling me there's people on the street that don't have enough money, and then there's people in the same country that literally have a monopoly on printing money, right? And once people start looking into that, I think the education for crypto is a natural step of evolution that they're going to pass through. And I think the best thing we can do is acknowledge two things. Number one, there will be a lot of people that want to spend a lot of time on this and figuring it out and understanding it and really going deep. And we need to enable them to get as many resources that are good for free as possible. And number two, which I think is overseen in crypto very often, is we need to acknowledge a lot of people don't have the time, don't want to invest the time, and maybe just don't prioritize education on that in their life for whatever reason. And for those people, what we need to do is build a system that's so easy to use that even they can benefit from it without being experts.
Honestly, that is a wonderful, wonderful response. Because you're right
Thanks.
that because you're right. I mean, if you really do think about it, it's the Western world is kind of having a to use a Western colloquialism, a come to Jesus moment about inflation and
Yeah.
the cost of goods and how people's jobs aren't providing the necessary funding, right?
Yep.
To basically live. And it's kind of the first time that, coming from a United States focused, mentality and life, it's kind of the first time where we've kind of had to reckon with this. So,
Yeah.
A really, really good thoughts. So, Water Spinner, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, so Vallejo, like just hearing you talk about those monetary policies and stuff like that, and that monopoly on people that, let's say, had management on funds and stuff like that, and could do whatever they wanted. I wanted to start this off talking about what Quasar is bringing to the DeFi space with the sense of asset management.
Yeah.
So if you could just give us a quick general overview of what asset management is, and then, yeah, we'll get into it.
Before I go into deep, you guys want some background or just kind of a quick answer?
Oh, you know what? This is where we like to have big brains talk. So,
yeah,
talk about it.
We love background. We love to hear what you want to talk about.
Okay, so when COVID hit and the market crashed, I essentially convinced my family to start to let me invest the money for them. And I'm the last one to tell you I'm a good trader. So no one please take this with a grain of salt. Okay, everything increased. I'm not gonna pretend, I know how to trade. The point is,
financial advice, do your own research.
Please, on anything I'm saying, actually. But what I realized is just because of how much time I could invest into this space of investing, how much more confident I was in my choices. So what I realized is because I had 12 hours a day to look through dividend reports, quarterly reports, stock buyback programs, P&L analysis, freaking projections, like going from NVIDIA, who designs the chips, all the way down to TSMC, which makes them, and ASML, which makes the machines to make the machines, and then some lithium miners, which make I went so deep that rabbit hole that I understood in that moment, it kind of clicked for me that asset management is not kind of a meme in the sense of, oh, just give someone else that's smarter your money. It's essentially a tool by which you can get back time in your life if you choose not to invest all the time you have into money management, right? And I think the second reason why asset management is important is because, at least in traditional finance, many opportunities have been gate kept by asset managers for good reason. Anytime you see a good investment, there's 10 people trying to get in, right? Like even in this bear market, what I'm hearing left and right, the chirps is the best people raising right now are oversubscribed, right? 9 out of 10 crypto companies raising right now are not getting a single check. 1 of the 10 is oversubscribed, right? That's always going to happen. It's always has been, insert meme, always has been about access to the good opportunities. And that is often reserved to asset managers because they build reputation, they build network, they build connections, and they build the pipes they need to get that access to the people that invest alongside them. What's the issue with that? Well, do you guys have $500,000 laying around to invest with an asset manager? Because I don't, right? And in traditional finance, it's incredibly gate-kept to invest into that. We essentially have, technically a 4-level society, but we have a 2-stage society in traditional finance where you have people that can invest in public stocks. And in the US, it's even worse because you have the accredited investor ruling, right? And then you have people that can invest with money managers that have enough money for that. And so when people ask me, from friends to invest their money, right? I could only take family funds for legal reasons, but when friends asked me, couldn't do it. Because it's I'm legally not allowed to do it, right? Which is fair, right? There's good reasons for that, because if it's a custodial exchange, them giving, me the money, I'm not against regulation on that front, right? I want to be very clear on that. But I also couldn't point them to someone else to do it. Because when they go to their local bank, they're going to get the S&P 500 pitched, which makes them 7%, and then there's going to be a 6% management fee on that. I've seen that shit happen. That happens. And I think what we're experiencing in crypto right now is what every maturing market experiences. If you have a young market, right, an early market, everyone can make money, more or less. DeFi summer, when the first gold was found in California, before the tulip bubble burst, tulips, NFT mania, right? We've seen it enough times. Early markets are essentially an opportunity for a lot of people to make money. even those that don't have a lot of experience. But as the market matures, you get a split happening of people using the market, and the profits consolidate to the very few on top, the very few that have the best connection time to look into the projects, the most experienced, the most knowledgeable, the smartest, doesn't even matter. But once you have that disconnect, that's the moment you need asset management. And we're just starting to feel that disconnect in DeFi, which is why asset management in DeFi is only 3% of all in the entire market cap, versus globally, it's a third. I kind of want to stress that number. $40 trillion of assets, which is a third of the global assets, are managed.
Wow.
Whereas 3% in crypto.
Wow.
Well, because the people that have most of the money, because the people that have those assets don't have time to manage them, right? That's why you have family offices, right? Even the best investors start at some point, having a family office because they just don't want to deal with it themselves that much. And so with this shift happening in crypto, let's look at this problem from a crypto viewpoint. And the crypto viewpoint tells me, fuck custodial, right? That's the first thing it tells me, because everything on implosion that happens is custodial. Fuck gatekeeping. So that tells me it needs to be permissionless, right? It needs to be accessible to all. Don't fuck security, okay? Security, very, very serious. That's why we work with Halborn. Literally every month they're auditing shit from us. Every month. I want to stress this. Believe it or not, me having 90% of my net worth in Quasar, I don't want to lose that, believe it or not. So yeah, Halborn auditing every month. And then essentially the infrastructure. That's kind of what we're tackling at the current stage, right? Because, and I'm going on a rant, so please stop me the second you want me to stop. But the way I look at ecosystems in crypto right now is essentially imagine you visit a website and you get a pop-up that tells you this website is hosted by Azure Cloud in Sweden. And you click on another website and it says, well, this website is proudly hosted by AWS in the US, right? Do you give a fuck?
No.
No one gives a fuck. The only thing you care about is, does the website load fast? Can I read the content? Is the login working? And can I get what I want from that website? Mm-hmm. You care about the value proposition and nothing else. The nerds care about that stuff. We care about that stuff, but the users don't. Right. And right now in crypto, anyone looking into crypto is basically going to hear the Avalanche guy say how they're 10 times better than Optimism, the Optimism guy telling them how Atom sucks, the Atom guy saying them how, whatever, Solana is a shit coin, Solana people saying, Ethereum sucks, and then they're going to be like, okay, yeah, I don't want to touch that, right? It's just a mud fight.
With Solana, you can easily, quip back, well, at least my blockchain doesn't stop every 5 seconds for any reason. And, I get it though.
See, I would like to go on that jump wagon, but we haven't launched yet, and I feel like it's bad mantra for us to shit on that.
Yeah, no.
Before we approve those.
No, I completely understand, but you're completely right. Like when you think about it, there is an opportunity for driving user experience-based things in this space, because for the longest time, since 2008, 2009, since the inception of Bitcoin, it has always kind of been geared and aimed towards, crypto nerds or those already familiar. And I think, that's a great mentality to, start moving the market in.
Yeah, and I think we need to abstract away the ecosystems, right? Because at the end of the day, again, people care about the value prop and they care about liquidity, right, when it comes to trading, and they care about access to DeFi opportunities when it comes to investments. And so the thing I'm going to show the most today is IBC. And thank God I don't need to say this is not financial advice because there's no IBC coin. But IBC is like, I don't know if people, in this call probably the most of all, but I've had a lot of calls where I feel like people don't fully grasp the importance of IBC. Like a protocol level consensus mechanism to transfer tokens from one side to another is the most nerdy sentence I could ever say if a girl was with me, but it's one of the most exciting sentences you can say to a crypto bro. Because the second we have non-synthetic transfers between chains, and IBC is going to go beyond Cosmos, I'm very sure of that. I'm pretty sure that's already happening. Polymer DAO, right? There's a lot of examples on that front. Once that happens, you can abstract it away, and you can just allow people to invest through IBC into what they believe in, whether it's Osmosis or Polkadot or Ethereum stuff or all of it, right? But we can be the neutral haven for that. I once posted that Quasar is going to be the Switzerland of Cosmos. You meme lords out there, not because you can hide your money, you can't do that since 2012, okay? But because it's the best place for you to put your money, and it's the best place for you to manage your money, and it's a neutral place to do that. And that's kind of what we're trying to be at our side.
That's absolutely amazing.
Oh yeah, I just as you were talking about that, you know, being the one-stop place for that and whatnot, I kind of wanted to now ask you about vaults, right? Using IBC, being able to take advantage of CosmWasm, interchain accounts, all the like. If you could first just explain to us what vaults are and how they work, like a one-stop shop for interchain control and whatnot.
Totally. So a vault is nothing else but a basket where you can pull money into it. It's literally just it's a place where people can pull money, and then essentially a vault can do anything a user can do with that money, whether that's 50x leveraging on Mars, or LPing in Osmosis, or staking, or borrowing, lending, or just investing into a coin, selling that coin. Once there's perpetuals and synthetics in Cosmos, buying options, long short, like a basket of money that can execute what humans can execute. Because the philosophy we have at Quasar here that we are pushing is IBC is not meant to be used by people. It's meant to be abstracted away in the backend the same way we did with TCP in Web 2 or Web 1, I guess. And so the way that we look at IBC, it's designed for us to automate and to create paths for vaults to engage with other protocols. The reason that we don't have pushback from anyone so far in the entire ecosystem is because we are not fighting for TVL like everyone else, including you guys, right? We are offering people gateways to deploy TVL in your project, right? We are going for high AUM. Exactly, we're going for high AUM, but basically no TVL. And so a vault is the mechanic in which you can abstract away and consolidate something happening. And so, for example, a vault in the future can be a YouTuber, right? Kind of managing a portfolio with his community. Once per month, maybe there's a live stream or video. They debate, what do we buy, what do we sell? Change the allocation, change the vault. It can be a place where you can create, and that's a wink moment over here, low alpha, the only and best interchain ETF, where you actually hold all the underlying assets on the actual chains, can actually stake them and can actually redeem all of them.
Yeah,
that's a place that's something you can do with a vault. What you can do with a vault is you can also create a little script essentially that says, please invest into the top 5 Osmo pools, but change the allocation depending on where APR at any given moment is higher. You can do that with a vault. A vault can also say, again, down the line, like I'm really just spitballing here, so we know we need to code it, but like the possibilities are already there. A vault can also say, hey man, take the LP rewards you make, swap them to USDC, send them to me, or swap them to Osmo and stake them. So truly, a vault is a way where people can come together to execute one thing or 10 things, or go full degen, or go full passive investor. And so vaults are going to be the same range of opportunity that people are looking for to deploy their capital in.
Okay, so I have a really good question then. And so you're talking about all of these options that are available across so many different platforms. Granted, we have a lot of underlying same technology. I don't think Quasar could really operate in any other ecosystem without a lot of work. But because we're based on, the SDK and IBC and CosmWasm, I could see how you can leverage the fact of developer time being reduced to basically get these vaults to be able to do these things, as well as the introduction of ICA.
Let me give you a bit of alpha, actually, because we got a bit of reach with it, but I feel like it could have been more. Our public testnet, which we launched about a month ago, if you go into it right now, I think we're actually going to shut it off soon in preparation for mainnet, but if you go on it right now, you basically can only press one button, which is bond, right? Where you can essentially, with one transaction, put money into one of our vaults. And that's all you do. But in the back end, your money that's on Quasar is multiple tokens you're deploying in one transaction. And then all those tokens are sent to our Osmosis testnet and LP'd and managed by the vault with one transaction. That's already happening. So we, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, for the first time, I think, to our knowledge, I fact checked it with Jack and Sunny, and I feel like we can claim that name. For the first time ever, you could manage an LP position through IBC.
That is, wow. That's really important. The thing about the opportunities that crypto gives. I have a husband who hates crypto with a burning passion. It's pretty
Can't
much
really blame him.
And again, I have conversation, and I get paid by the support lab. Like when I told him I had a crypto job, he just rolled his eyes at me. When I told him how much I'm bringing home with it, he stopped rolling his eyes. But it does take up half my life. But the thing is the passion of everyone in this space allows us to grow as better. Because you're right, you said it earlier, you're not against regulation of crypto as a space. I think all of us can agree if it's done right, it'll be much safer for an everyday user to enter the space because...
You're going to have to stop me from a rant, but it's about right regulation.
Rant. It's fine. Go ahead and rant.
Okay. When I talk about regulation, I mean clarity, not whatever the hell is going on in your country right now. Right. And also when I was talking about regulation that I like before is custodial exchanges need to be regulated. Right. Because the only thing you can rely on custodial exchanges is the law protecting you, which apart from the fact of have fun with lawyers for 1 year to get what you rightfully deserve, apart from that, non-custodial exchanges don't need the same level of security, right? Because you never lose custody, so you don't need to trust another human. But nonetheless, the crypto space deserves and needs some good regulation. That means clarity, not Gary, okay? Not amount of regulation I'm asking for, clarity. Right. Little Gensler.
It's definitely it's a unique line that's in the sand about that, and I think that the clarity will help just in general on what the expectations are, because again we don't have any. So with these vaults, so right now essentially are vaults user created or are they currently Quasar created?
Good question. So we're gonna start off with Quasar created vaults, but I'm not gonna drop a soon TM for opening up because it's gonna be basically less than a month after launch. We're going to open up vault creation to be community based. Now in the beginning you're gonna need to be a Cosmos dev, but again from the vision I was sharing, the goal is to get to a point where you basically have like the script app on the iPhone, right? Like the shortcuts, where you can basically just use building blocks to automate what you want to do anyway. But yeah,
great layout. Let me just say, as somebody who was an iPhone user for a while, I switched over to Android because battery life issues. But the shortcuts app and building, those automated tools, it's a great example to go with.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we're targeting. But the point is that we are openly inviting competition to Quasar. There is a lot of other asset management platforms, yield aggregator platforms, yield management platforms of any kind out there. Almost none of them are permissionless, which I think goes against, it's like you go 2 steps forward, you get 1 step back. We want to go 3 steps forward, right? So it's going to be permissionless. Now, if deployment is permissionless or permissioned, I see your question, Robo. We actually don't know that yet. This is a massive, heavy debate. I'm going to give you some intel info here. The Quasar team is massively internally debating this because I don't know, you guys probably experience the same with osmosis, but if you have a group of 14 people, we are 14 people, that all love what they're doing and are passionate about it, discussing something, it can get very polarizing. So yeah, we're currently debating that because there's good arguments for both sides, but nonetheless, it will be community enabled. That's the point. We are not going to pretend that we are the asset manager for you. What we're going to say is we are the platform to enable asset managers to do their job well, and for people in all of Cosmos and beyond to invest alongside them.
Yeah, I definitely understand. I mean, even within the support lab itself, I'm sure with the dev team, they go through a lot of that. But the support lab itself, we just went through a week-long debate process about just internal things, and it gets passionate. It gets heated sometimes.
But that's good, right? Like that's
Right.
the beauty of the space.
Right.
It's not a boardroom where some guy says that's how it is and shut up if you don't agree, right? This is we're building an ultra capitalistic democracy system in the most communist way possible, and like everyone has free speech rights essentially. And that's like, it's wild, it gets dirty, it gets crazy, but like I strive for it. I think from just the experiences my parents and my grandparents shared from ex-Soviet times, I think it's natural to assume that I'm very liberal when it comes to like classic liberal, I would say. So I think people being able to voice their opinions even if I disagree is based, very, very based.
To be in this space, you have to be based.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm founder of Based now. So yeah, based is. I'm single-handedly working on bringing the word based back. I got Jack to adopt it. I got Tyler from Stranger to adopt it. It's slowly making its way. So yeah, I'm single-handedly working on bringing based back. That's a side mission I have.
It's okay. We have an emoji for it.
Oh my god.
It's a little. It's the Ion logo.
I see. It's hidden under there. I don't know if that's based. What? Sorry.
All right. Water spinner.
Come on, a bit of cheeky fun over here.
No, it's great. It's great. What folks at home don't know is we've been talking with Vallejo in a back chat while we set it up the show for the last week, and my God, was that chat just hilarious to start off with. I mean, we're talking to a founder here, and we're just shooting the shit, and it's very fun. And
I'm just a young guy, right?
It's been great not to have a feeling of a suit, if you know what I mean. We're professional when
that would not be based.
Yeah, we're professional when we need to be, but we also can have fun.
Yeah, it's very relaxing and refreshing.
What are we living for, right? Like, look, there's a very fine line between being unprofessional when it matters and unprofessional when it doesn't matter, right? And I think that at least the mantra that we have in the Quasar team is like, we all freaking love what we do. Like, right. We all just love it. And like, we're also just shooting the shit. But the point is, right, and like, not to play the reality card, right? The Yu-Gi-Oh, reality card. This is a professional environment, right? We didn't raise $11.5 million as a meme, right? Mm-hmm. And so, there is expectations that we set to ourselves, investor expectations, community expectations. But if you are miserable when you do your job, you will not do your job so well. I'm very, very confident in that fact. And so, this community chat, right? Why should I be overly professional, right? In our personal chat, like, makes no sense. Is it gonna get a goal faster, right? No. Is it gonna, yield better results? No. So why would I, right?
Yeah. No, I definitely feel you. There's no need for us to be all uptight.
Sometimes, right? When I talk to, some VCs, family offices, hedge funds, right? Obviously, can't shoot the shit to that level, but you'd actually be surprised. You'd actually be surprised. You can tickle it out of people. They usually hide it. We're all just humans.
Okay, so if we're talking about see what we can get out of people, let's talk a little more. First, we're going to talk. I just want to ask a little bit about the index stuff that you guys are introducing, and then after that, there's some questions that I want to ask about the launch and things that I know that are happening with Osmosis and that type of stuff. So yeah, let's just real quick talk about the index.
Totally. So when I came into Cosmos, right, I'm gonna admit this. I'm first to admit this. I'm a bit ashamed, but that's how it is. I thought Atom is what I want to buy. Like Atom is Cosmos. I thought Atom is all of Cosmos.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it's the collateral that I thought it's the ETH of Cosmos. That's what I thought.
Right.
Took me a while to understand that it's not the commodity behind everything. And so what I then realized is like, okay, hold on, but like, wait a minute. I believe in IBC, right? That's why I went to Cosmos. I believe in sovereignty, cool. But like, are you telling me that I need to manage every single coin on their own chain, stake them on their own chain, and like switch between them? Like, is that what you're telling me? And then I need to like make sure that all of these are like the allocation I want them to be, depending on how they move. And then unbonding takes 3 weeks. Like, am I hearing you right? Like, is this what you're telling me? So very, very quickly, the pain point in almost anyone in the team was that this is a very unique problem to our ecosystem because we don't have one value accruing token. So we need to essentially create a pure index. Now, the way it's been adopted in many other cases is that you have a token that's basically in price bound to the underlying assets, right? And then, but that's pretty much it. Now, ETF, if you are a normal human and you buy an ETF like the S&P 500, you can't get the underlying. But guess who can? Asset managers. Can you believe it? Beautiful. Two-class society. Don't you love it? And so the only true way to know that you're holding the underlying is to be able to redeem them. That's my opinion, right? Otherwise, you hold something that abstracts away the holding into the price, but it's not the same as holding it. And so what we looked at is, okay, we want to build an actual ETF, right? Where if you want, you can just get all the underlying assets back to you. And on top of that, because that's unique in Cosmos as well, it's not a pure ETF if you don't offer the people a choice between having the token staked or not staked. If having them not staked allows for high liquidity, so there's other use cases for professional traders and bigger liquidity, because you don't have an unbonding time. But the bonded, the staked ETF is what I think will be the most adopted in all of Cosmos. Because our goal is that in order to create stability in Cosmos, liquidity in Cosmos, trust in Cosmos, and essentially a representative position for growth in IBC, you need to have a proper ETF where you can get the redeemed underlying assets and they're all staked. And that's what our index is going to be.
That is very interesting. Now, I know that a lot of us understand what an ETF like is on a broader scale, like in traditional finance. Could you just give a quick definition?
Totally.
Of what an ETF
Absolutely.
is?
So the name just stands for exchange traded fund. The point is essentially what the traditional sense was, that it's a fund, right, which you can also call a vault, that is publicly available, right? It's exchange tradable, which means it's public. So like when you have a broker account, right, you can just find it and buy it, versus most hedge funds, which are just funds because they're not public. You can't exchange trade them, you can't buy them. And so the most proper use case is the S&P 500, which is essentially the biggest the 500 biggest companies in the US by market cap, weighted in a position by market cap. So like 8% of the ETF is Apple, 7.5% is Microsoft, yada yada yada, all the way to like companies 400 to 500, which are each 0.1, 0.5, 0.2% of the ETF. So that's an ETF. What an ETF allows in traditional finance, this is not financial advice, is to easily diversify your portfolio, which means that you don't just hold one position, but you hold many positions, which usually means lower risk exposure. It also means that you're essentially investing into the meta level above the ETF. So instead of investing into one industry, right, you're investing into the US economy in a way, right? You're investing into the US, so to say. Whereas in Germany, we have, for example, the DAX 10, which is the 10 biggest companies in Germany. If you buy that, you don't invest into one industry, you invest into, German industry. And so in Cosmos, what that would look like is you would have a vault share token, which would be called, index, IBC index, IBC ETF, doesn't really matter at that point, that you can change on the Quasar side for all of the underlying tokens. That one token would mean that you hold a share of each of the underlying tokens. So, Atom, Osmo, Juno, Stargaze, FMOS, Stride. Like at the end of the day, it's governance based, right? What those underlying tokens are. And then that token would be also bound to the price of all the underlying. So if IBC works out, the theory, not financial advice, is that the token is going to capture that value. If, for example, Osmosis 10% of the token and Osmosis goes up 10%, that means your token goes up 1% if the rest stays the same. Versus if some other position drops 50%, that means your entire position only drops, 2 or 5% because you have other tokens in the ETF. So that's what an ETF in Cosmos would look like. And then you could also use it for borrowing. You could lend against it. You could borrow against it. I think it's the kind of second most interesting counter token for LP positions in Osmosis after USDC and Osmo. Obviously, USDC and Osmo are going to be king for a long time, and I actually don't intend to change that. But I think it will be interesting for people to park their money in IBC index and be able to trade out as well, because it will be more stable than singular positions in Cosmos.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that. The thing is financial literacy is definitely a thing that I think all of us kind of strive in this space to have more of. It's part of the reason why we're here. And in all honesty, I see a great opportunity for crypto to have, basically a reflection of what's available to that, third, second, and first tier, but available for every day. Just like you said, it's, the communism and the capitalism all kind of rolled up into a new type of ism.
And you choose. You just choose.
You just choose, which is great. I do want to talk. We haven't talked a lot about what it would what it would cost to essentially set up a position with one of these indexes. I'm guessing you would be using your mainnet token, Quasar or QSR, correct me if I'm wrong.
QSR is correct, yeah. So the index let's say this, creating a vault requires you to lock up a certain amount of QSR. That's the only cost you're incurring creating a vault. We are probably, it's again subject to governance, but I think governance won't be opposed to lowering the lockup amount once we get to a point where people can script their own stuff. Because it's a different use case, right? Whether you're building something for global people to invest with you, or you're building something to just automate the workflows you already do, right? Like every day you want to restake your rewards, and right. So like for the secondary category, it's gonna be, depending on governance, probably a much smaller amount than the first one. And then buying the assets, depending on the rollout of our features and availabilities there, will not be in Quasar token. It will be in the underlying assets that vaults are going to use. So what we have designed is essentially the very small equilibrium between having the token have as much use as possible without making user experience reliant on it. So users don't need to have Quasar token to use the platform. Otherwise, how can I pretend with good conscience that this is going to be the unlock for a bigger public to invest into Cosmos? It won't be if you need Quasar token. So we made sure that that's not a necessity, but a plus that you want to have. Similar to let's say BNB, if you use a lot of Binance, you don't need it, but if you have it, your fees are much, much lower and there's a ton of other benefits. So that's kind of how we structured that. And I think, again, there's a reason Binance is as big as it is, right? I think that model works well for them. And so depositing to the index, you deposit essentially the asset that you wish, as long as we support it. So let's say, USDC, Atom, Osmo. And then the ETF spreads that across all the underlying assets.
That's really, really interesting. So obviously, another use case for Quasar would probably be traditional governance staking, stake to validator.
I'm glad you brought that up. We are currently in the early stages of working on it. We're actually, connecting with Jake from DAO right now.
Okay.
But the goal is to have vault-based governance.
Oh.
What? Yep, you heard me right.
What?
The point is,
Alpha. What?
yep. The point is, I don't think vault investors want to have a higher risk profile by having on-chain governance of people that have not deposited into that specific vault govern what that vault does. That doesn't seem very sensible to me. Now, in the index strategy, that is sensible because the index is the Quasar community's index offering to Osmosis, but for to Cosmos and Osmosis for that matter. But any other strategy and any other vault should be only governed by people that have skin in the game, right? I think the biggest issues we have in modern society anywhere is incentive misalignment and people that don't have skin in the game governing something where they should have skin in the game in it. That's the two things where I think we have the biggest issues in modern society. And so I want to eradicate both of them for Quasar. And it's very tricky to build, but the goal is essentially that only people that deposit into a vault have the governance rights over that specific vault, proportionate to their amount of liquidity in that vault.
All right.
And that is going to that is going to be a massive unlock for real adoption of this, because I have presented at CoinDesk Ideas, which was a private event by CoinDesk in New York recently, in front of hedge funds, asset managers, family offices. I mean, literally $1 trillion in that in the crowd, like completely ridiculous. And do you think that the pitch would be good if I tell them, trust me and my 13 buddies? Right? That's not their risk profile. And it shouldn't be for anyone watching either or listening. The risk profile you should have is, what does the code say? What does the code do? And so what you want is encapsulation of that. So the vaults themselves are their own thing and decide what the vault does. And once we get to a stage in the future where we can even, you can set up a vault with a max deposit amount. And for example, now I'm spitballing, but to kind of, again, paint a picture, asset managers bring a ton of liquidity to Cosmos, right? Fidelity, BlackRock, all the big guys on Wall Street. We don't have any of them in Cosmos yet because there's nothing in Cosmos they can truly invest in from a compliance standpoint. Now, when you have a vault, they can create a vault and just fill up the entire vault by themselves, right? Which means that the only people that have exposure to that vault are already KYC'd accredited investors they have. So at that point, all these traditional asset managers can offer DeFi native assets to their depositors and LPs, which in our case means Cosmos positions.
Interesting. You're triggering a question that I have in my head. However, on the protocol level, before I ask that specific question, on the protocol level, what kind of governance do you expect? If it's like a protocol level decision that needs to be made, then essentially having the vaults be the voting power that votes on the protocol level, or just
no?
Okay.
No. I think that it's a very natural decision to keep that to the Quasar token, because there's basically, are you a user of the platform, or are you a stakeholder of the platform, right?
Okay.
And I think we abstract it away on the token level, but then people can decide to be both. But like, say, people that buy from Apple should not have governance rights in Apple. Apple shareholders should decide what happens at Apple.
That makes sense. That makes complete sense.
On the other hand, though, just philosophically, though, obviously the users decide what happens at Apple because of their behavior, right?
Right. It's a tricky line, right? However, the question I was going to ask about these vaults and how, an individual entity, for instance, could, they are the only ones with exposure, and they can guarantee that they're the only ones with exposure from a compliance standpoint. Does that open up the possibility of, essentially what, I'm not sure how familiar you are with Noble, and what they're trying to do with bringing native USDC.
Well, you may talk to someone that may be in discussion for a private round allocation, but what do I know?
Ooh, oh, okay, heard.
What do I know?
The thing is when I think about this, it allows to open up a lot of that KYC, know your customer, stuff. And also potentially a route to, I don't know, maybe bootstrap newer stable ideas, let's say, or bootstrap different ideas to that way, because essentially it abstracts away all of the development cost of all you have to do is deposit things in and you can guarantee whatever on your back end, but it gets rid of all of the we have to build a whole blockchain, we have to do this, we have to partner with a bank, we have to it's
Yeah, man, absolutely. I think the app chain thesis does not mean that every project should be its own chain. I think what it means is that you have a choice of being your own chain or building on another chain, right?
Right.
And what we are trying, there's no guarantees in life, right? But we are talking to a couple of teams that are interested in building on top of Quasar, right? Just asset managers don't want to necessarily build infrastructure. Sure, when they're a couple $1 billion big, they want to build their own infrastructure. But before that, if you have a group of 3 guys that are just really smart, right, and figure out opportunities to capture value in Cosmos and want to offer that to people, they don't want to build the rails, right? They want to build a strategy. So we are, in a way, a platform offering for those people, for sure. We're also a platform offering for treasuries, right? Because once we have vault-based governance, then essentially projects can just use vaults as their treasuries to manage their assets on chain, right? And from a compliance standpoint, I just want to address this, right? The goal is to destroy as many gates as possible, gates in the sense of something being gate kept. But why I was mentioning private vaults for those asset managers, because regulatory speaking, they cannot manage your money yet. The point is, though, the onboarding step is get them to use DeFi native products, get them through the door, and once regulation changes, they can just flip a switch, and suddenly everybody can invest alongside BlackRock or Fidelity if they choose to.
Right. You have the chat up, so I think you can see Robo's,
Yes.
Robo's questions.
Yes, first question. Offer vaults for positions outside of Cosmos. Is that on the roadmap? We are always going to stay on IBC. I am an IBC maxi. I have used a bridge twice in my life, and both times I wanted to shoot myself. So the way that IBC is going to grow is the way how we are going to grow. And IBC is going beyond Cosmos, so we are going beyond Cosmos. And number 2, allow for vault representation tokens to be bridged and are custodied outside of the Cosmos ecosystem. That would happen with the IBC expansion alongside. So you can see us as, Mars may have front runners there, but we are good friends. I'm good friends with Larry, we're good friends with the Mars team, so no hard feelings. But we are an interchain protocol, truly, right? We have the advancements we made in code we built is basically here's what you can do and here's where we are, and that is what has been happening this year, right? Interchain accounts, we have co-developed async ICQ, which you guys are adopting, by the way, right? In the next update, we coded that with Strangelove and Polymer, and there's a lot of advancements that needed to be made to enable that, especially around Cosmosm and interchain accounts. As far as we are aware, we are the only ones, maybe Mars as well, that has Cosmos smart contracts that can engage with interchain accounts. That's another secret sauce we have, right? There's literally, not to name drop projects out there, raising with that feature being the main feature. It's like one of 10 things we need to build our thing. Right. But yeah, man, the advancements are there. And so because everything is built on IBC, the same way IBC expands is the way Quasar expands. You can be sure of that. It will not go beyond IBC.
So we are actually close to our hour. However, I do have a couple more questions to ask you. If you have more time, it's all up to you.
Sure. We can do a bit rapid fire if you want.
Well, this is actually going to be about the launch because you just released the date. Congratulations, by the way. Hope everything goes well. I'm sure.
Knock on wood.
I'm sure all of us will be watching and celebrating with you. So basically, how has the test net been going? How was that LP strategy? You touched on it a little bit, but is there anything else you can go into detail about?
Sure. So the launch date has been set to 23rd of March, which is in 13 days. Jesus fucking Christ.
2 weeks.
Coming up.
Yeah. We're actually going to do a very unique thing in Cosmos, and we're going to announce it soon, but we're not going to launch our token with our mainnet launch. Say
Oh.
what? Yeah, we're gonna get later. We're gonna. I think maybe not the call for today, but maybe the call as we get closer to that date. But from day one, what you will be able to do is you will be able to deposit probably Osmo and Atom, and then click on a vault or multiple vaults. We don't know yet. And then those vaults are gonna send your money to LP positions on Osmosis. Early people are gonna be rewarded, right, with boosts and such. And then from that kind of baseline, we can build auto compounding on top, we can build rebalancing on top, we can build adoption for more vaults on top, adoption for more pools on top. So the user experience is going to be very boring by design. You click 2 buttons and that's pretty much it, but that's the entire point. Yeah. Does that answer the question? I forgot if there was another question.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely wonderful. Now, there's also the question of, any sort of potential liquidity bootstrapping. Will you make a pool on Osmosis? Those types of things.
Yes. Let me say the following. We are going to launch on Osmosis, and I will not be able to say any more today.
Understood. It's great.
Let's just say there's many big centralized exchanges knocking on my door, but man's a real one. Okay, they can wait. Next in line. Okay, I'm talking to Osmosis buddies. Sunny invested twice. I'm not forgetting that. You guys are cool. So they're next in line.
And I can definitely say Sunny is definitely a believer in the interchain idea, and working with projects, that even might be offering competing products or experiences simply because, he's also an IBC maxi. So it makes sense.
He's based as hell. He let me stay in his apartment, even though we have barely met at the first time. And I'm going to ask him before I tell that story, but the first day was very funny. I met his dad immediately, but that's maybe a story for today. No, Sunny is a real one. Like, I'm the last one. Like, Sunny is a real one. And like, his support earlier has been incredibly valuable for us because we had to co-develop with you guys, right? And we had to kind of, it was a bit scary to kind of pitch the idea here, right? Because there's obviously fear of feeling like we're pulling liquidity. But I think we have proven over the last year that we are literally the opposite. Like, we are gonna build new rails to have more liquidity on Osmosis. And so kind of having that trust from Sunny and that seal of approval has been incredibly valuable. And also just from like, I'm just a community guy as well, right? Like, that's just, I'm obviously nerding out about that. Yeah.
So I have a question now. I know that there was mention, not in this call, but in documentation about the Quasar treasury. Can you give a little bit of background on what the treasury?
Some of that info. Yes. Some of that info is actually outdated. And before I go into that, I just want to take a moment to thank everyone because I'm looking at the people in this call, and like 90% of the people that joined an hour ago are still here. So Jesus Christ, guys, you're the real ones. So the treasury, we are in this unique position again that we are neutral and liquidity from us flows to others, right? Remember, high AUM, low TVL. Because of that, it's a very natural fit for us to want to hold assets of the platforms we're sending to.
Right.
And so the goal for our treasury is to be diversified. Again, I can only talk about plans because governance is going to play the entire part of this. But the plans are that we should have assets of the platforms like Osmosis that we send money to, and we should allow users to acquire Quasar through the treasury. So whereas in a lot of projects, the treasury is kind of a way to hide away that you're not as decentralized as you would like to be. In our way, it's actually the way that we give people Quasar tokens. So it's similar to the only mechanic in Olympus that nobody can criticize, for all the other mechanics, is the bonding mechanism with the treasury, where you can essentially acquire their assets for a discount if you give them assets that they want in the treasury, right? And so the same way we're going to operate in the sense that if governance decides that 10% of our treasury should be Osmosis, then people can get Quasar from our treasury at discount points depending on how far away from that target we are to fill up our treasury with the tokens that we want, so that Quasar has exposure to the projects that we're building with, has governance to the projects we're building with, and has just skin in the game, right? Talking about incentive alignment. You can't tell someone to care if they're not a shareholder. You can't tell a protocol you care if you don't have that token. Right. And so with that mantra in mind, that's kind of how we look at the treasury.
Yeah, that's actually, I would say that is, and other community members may feel differently, but I'm sure you're familiar with Osmosis's community pool, for instance, and we do have a variety of assets in there, just from Axel from Axelar, or Stars. They were our original liquidity bootstrapping pool, and in all honesty, who isn't an NFT degen these days, and they were first to market, so of course. And I think that having a diversified, having that option is one kind of unique right now. I don't think anyone really in this space in the cosmos is effectively or accurately doing that. So it's going to be really interesting to see and participate. The idea. Go ahead.
Because usually they're competing, right? Like usually, right? But again, from our perspective, like, we're not competing against anyone in Cosmos, because what we're building, I've not seen once in Cosmos, not even remotely. So we are in a neutral position where, we just want to hold the assets of where we send liquidity to. That's just a very natural kind of thing, in my opinion. It's not, I don't feel like that's a crazy thing to do.
So, just some one-off, questions here. How, you've already talked about the user experience, and, that question was already answered. Whoops. Okay. So what are you looking at as the, obviously your tokenomics are wholly unique to your position on how you view yourself in the cosmos. Again, it's out of left field, to be completely honest. So where do you value, or how do you value, Quasar, your standard governance token, in the grand scheme of things, and how would you like it to be looked at, as opposed to just the governance token of the protocol?
Totally. I don't know if you're baiting me into being criminally charged by giving financial advice.
No. Answer as abstract as you would like.
No, I will never accuse you of that. It's been a bit dry for a while. I just wanted to put in a joke.
We're getting professional.
I think the way I would view ourselves is, if our goal plans out to be, like, literally, that's how big I'm thinking, the backbone of DeFi asset management, period.
Okay.
Because whoever is going to manage assets on DeFi, IBC is the best interchain protocol, and no one except for maxis care about which ecosystem you're in.
Right.
And then if we are building all the rails, then you can use them, and then we're going to be the backbone for that. And the way that I see us is, it's going to be the token that has equity in a way, right, in that ecosystem. Now, is it going to correspond with price? Fuck if I know. Also, there's not financial advice. But I think the meme of governance token is not really applying in our case, because for once, our treasury will be diversified. So governance will not just be our token, but literally other protocols tokens, right? So that's already very fascinating on that front. Secondly, there's utility in the sense that you need to lock them up to create a vault, right? Thirdly, I think that there's a couple programs we're working on in the background that are going to give even more utility to Quasar tokens. And then on top of that, I think that, the aspect of it being the gas token should not be underestimated, because a small increase in gas price of a couple cents doesn't bother a single user, but can translate to good treasury growth, right? So I think that there's generally speaking much more than just a memeable governance token that we are looking at. But I love compliance and I like the US. And given how I look, I already get randomly selected at flying in every second time.
I understand
Which
that
is
too.
fascinating. That's fascinating because it feels very random to be picked up 50% of the time. I really wonder why. And I like the country, so I'd like to, not increase those 50% further. So we are really refraining from using mechanics that are gonna make us seem like a security, unless governance down the line, when we are sufficiently decentralized, chooses to. Because yours truly likes the US and yours truly would like to be able to come visit further.
Right.
I'm not like I don't like Serbia, guys. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, my mom's from Bulgaria. I spent summers in Bulgaria, right? I don't like Serbia. No offense to Jelena, right? I like her, but I don't feel like having a couple $100 million in the bank account you stole from people and then living in a country I don't want to be in seems like the path forward for me in life.
That seems like a piss poor way to
Unbased
live life.
thing to do.
Yeah.
Very unbased.
I'm sure that we could talk for hours, and I'm sure that once you're through all the craziness of launch, we will ping you and ask you to come back and talk about more things.
It would be a pleasure.
It's you have a lot of great ideas and a lot of thoughts, and it's been very enlightening. But we are going to have to head out here. So any final words? Where can people find you? Where should people listen to your funny jokes or memes? Is there a Discord, Telegram? What you got?
Yeah. So on Twitter we are Quasar-Fi. The website is quasar.fi. Our Discord is Quasar, but we have it linked on the website. My shitposting main Twitter account is Vallejo777. It is a horrendous tag, but for some reason someone from 10 years ago got Vallejo, and even though Elon Musk says he's going to free it up, haven't seen it happen yet. So yeah, my tag for now is Vallejo777.
Hold on, you keep name dropping like large businesses and names. Like just here, now is it Elon Musk specifically or his
No.
Twitter support?
He said that he's going to. Well, hold on. I mean, he's apart from the fact that we can't run ads on Twitter, so our entire growth has been natural. Apart from that, he said that he's going to kill old accounts to free up the tags. And then literally, I'm using a service that checks my tag every day, and it's still not free, even though that freaking person has 0 for anyway. Point being, Vallejo777. I would say, if I can leave this off, I highly suggest everybody to educate themselves on IBC versus other protocols. I've recently retweeted a post from Jim, who is someone that I'm also probably angel investing into his project. He made a fantastic thread about different interoperability protocols, IBC versus everything else, essentially. It's hugely fascinating, very, very insightful. I just recommend people to kind of, understand the risks and the benefits of different approaches when it comes to inter-blockchain communication. And I want to wish everyone a great day ahead.
Thank you so much. And we look forward to having you again. And if you ever need anything from the Osmosis Support Lab, or I know you probably have a direct connection to Sunny, obviously, but if you need anything from the Osmosis community, just give us a ping. You know where to find us. And we look forward to continuing to shitpost with you and make good decisions.
Yeah, as always.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you so much. And again, thanks to everyone listening in. Really appreciate it. And keep it up, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Guys. See you, everyone.
Whoever's still listening, I need help ending this thing.
I got it. 1 second.
Thanks.